What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. This is a video I wasn't sure if I was going to be making today. I certainly didn't think I'd be recording it so late. It is currently 11:19 PM UK time on Friday night, and about 10-15 minutes ago, I activated my wildcard chip. This is my team page that you see right in front of you, and at the top it says Wildcard Active. That cannot be cancelled. I am using the wildcard in Game Week 4. I know a lot of people will say it's too late in the international break to be activating. Ideally, you want to know at the start of a week you're definitely going to use it and kind of make use of all the price changes and stuff like that. And that is the best way to do it. But ultimately, depending on what injury news we got on Friday, kind of had an impact on what I needed to do with my team. And I think there's enough reason to activate the chip, even though I might have missed some of the price rises. And to be honest with you, picking the team generally doesn't take that long for me to do for a wildcard. What has taken me a long time today to get my head around is whether I actually need to wildcard. So although I've not given myself much time to think about the actual players I'm going to pick, most of it I'm pretty happy with already. So I don't see like a mad panic on the deadline stream tomorrow or anything like that. Did I 100% need to wildcard this week? No. I did that long ramble on the final thoughts video earlier, and after I recorded it, I kind of realised that I was missing a very obvious move, and that was just Sarr to Semenyo and no other transfers. Just roll with Agbadou in defence and just bench Strand Larsen and hope he's back for Game Week 5. So I could have just used one move and not taken a hit, but I think with the desire to bench boost in Game Week 5, really relies on Strand Larsen being fit for Game Week 5. And I don't think that's a guarantee. I think for Game Week 5, we might have a similar situation as we do with Palmer this week, where he's out and then he's still a doubt going into the next week. I think that could be the same with Strand Larsen. Now, obviously, I could have just bailed on the bench boost and done it in another week. And this isn't a logical reason to use your chips. I don't know how much more time I want to spend thinking about this when ultimately, deep down, I don't think that specific weeks are necessarily going to be that much better. Obviously, there will be swings along the way, as there always is with FPL. But if I wildcard now versus wildcard 6 or 7 or bench boost 5 versus bench boost 8, is there really going to be a massive difference in points? Not so sure. And right now, I think I've got a better team that's going to get me more points in Game Week 4. It's going to allow me to bench boost in Game Week 5 for more points as well. The team in Game Week 5 looks better than it would have done with just the Semenyo transfer this week. And I can still free hit 6. So the plan right now is to wildcard 4, bench boost 5, free hit 6. That will leave me with triple captain, which I'll use after Game Week 12, probably on Salah. Maybe Sunderland at home in Game Week 14. And I'm pretty happy with that. Could there be a random blank game week or double game week in the first half of the season? Yes, but it's quite unlikely. And I think with the amount of transfers we're going to get around African Cup of Nations, I'm probably not going to get massively stuck later on. Now, I did have a chat with some of the YouTube members in my Discord channel earlier on before I activated, and some of them were pointing out that, you know, you could just make one move, take a hit to delay the wild card. And I understand that argument, but I don't know why I would bother taking hits when I've got a wild card in hand. The argument always tends to be, take the hits now and delay your wild card till later. I don't know why the other way around is not seen as just as good. I can wild card now, and if later on I get really stuck, I take those hits that I almost took right now. But if I get to later on and the team looks fine, then I've avoided hits. At least that's what I'm telling myself. In terms of the team I've picked, Raya in goal, ready for the fixture swing for Arsenal in Game Week 7. He's pretty much a lock. If I'm going to free hit 6, which I'm pretty sure I'm going to do, as I've just said, Lacroix, Munoz, double up on Crystal Palace defence. Yes, they've got Europe starting up soon, and we don't know how that's going to impact them, etc. They've lost Sarr, lost Eze, etc. But I think ultimately Munoz is a bit of a machine and great for attacking potential. And centre-backs are never really that much of a concern when Europe starts up. So I think Lacroix is fine too. So Sunderland at home, West Ham away, then I free hit. Then I get them back after that. And I think the long-term plan, let's say I wanted Palmer back in Game Week 9, I'd probably sell Munoz that week against Arsenal away to free up the money to try and get Palmer back. So I'm quite happy with Lacroix and Munoz. I think for free hit 6, they make a lot of sense. Virgil van Dijk's in for Burnley away, then Everton at home in 5 again. He would be free hit out in Game Week 6. After 6, 7's Chelsea away, not great, but Man United at home is fine. Brentford away is fine. Villa at home is fine. 11 City away, not great. But then game week 12, you've got the fixture swing again for Liverpool. So a couple of good fixtures now. Chelsea away, not great. 8 to 10 are fine. And then 12 onwards are pretty good. So I think Van Dijk's quite a nice long-term hold. And ultimately, one of the reasons to save your wildcard until 12 or 13 is because of the Liverpool and Man City fixture swings. So with this team, I've already got Salah and Van Dijk in place. I can free hit 6 for Haaland against Burnley at home. And then the only thing I've got to figure out in like 9 game weeks' time is how I get Haaland back. Now, the argument back to me would be, well, if you save your wildcard, you can easily get Haaland and Salah in. I do understand that. But honestly, if you go and look at building a team with those two, you've probably got to have like 3 midfielders under 6 million. And if I can roll enough transfers, I'll be able to figure it out. So as much as getting Haaland might be a pain, he's probably the only player it's going to be a pain to get. Because if I need Reinders, I can get him for pretty much any one of my midfielders, right? If I need a defender, I can just sell someone else. It's not a big deal. So I don't see it as a massive problem, especially when I got Van Dijk and Salah already in place. And yes, I'm thinking of this on the fly at 25 past 11. It's going to be a bit of a ramble. Salah's in, obviously. Bruno Fernandes stays. Mitoma and Paquetá, I'm not... There's a couple... As much as I've said it's easy to choose the wild card, there's just a few picks I'm not sure about, but I can't think of better players. Like Mitoma's 6.4 million. I can't afford to go up to Semenyo or who's the other one? Like Xavi Simon. So the only players around Mitoma's price are like Kudus, Grealish, but it's Liverpool away next week, and Jai's got a knock. So I think Mitoma's okay. Someone said to me earlier, like, he doesn't have much of an avenue to points. But this is a guy that scored 10 goals last season. Compare that to Semenyo, who's like flavour in the month right now. He scored 11 last season, but he played like 700 more minutes. So yeah, 10 goals, 5 assists from Mitoma last year. And I'm not trying to like create a narrative that he's now amazing because I'm wildcarding. I just think at his price, he's probably one of the better options. Bournemouth away this week. Spurs at home in 5 when I bench boost. Chelsea away in 6, I free hit. Then it's back to Wolves away, Newcastle at home. And then the longer term plan would probably be that this spot gets changed to Palmer. So if Palmer's a really good option in game week 9, I fund that by selling Mitoma and a couple of others, which I'll come on to in a sec. And then he goes. But if I have to keep hold of him, after Man United away in 9, it's Leeds at home, Palace away, Brentford at home. So when he's fit, he generally starts. I am a little bit wary of having Brighton attackers. So I just don't trust Hurtzler. But Mitoma's pretty much nailed in that team. Like, out of all the attackers, he's the one I think is the safest for minutes. I like Ruta. He might drop in price tonight to 5.8 million. He could be a good option. If you look at the bookies odds, so like Rob T FPL does the season-long projections for goals and assists, Ruta's actually ahead of Mitoma. So he is very good value. I just trust Mitoma more. So that's why he's in. Paquetá, I think under 6 million. I could go for Reinders, but Reinders has got Arsenal away in game week 5. I've already got Dewsbury Hall in my team with Liverpool away that week on bench boost. Paquetá's got Palace at home next week and Spurs this week. In game week 6, I free hit again. Game week 7, Arsenal away, I can bench him for Paquetá. I can bench him for Dewsbury Hall. And then after that, the fixtures are good for West Ham. Brentford at home, Leeds away, Newcastle at home, Burnley at home. So he's another long-term pick. I am semi-aware that some of these picks are for the longer term. And that could be annoying in the short term if they don't pick up the points. But as much as Paquetá's fixtures are really good later on, I think they're okay now as well. Like Spurs at home this week, Palace at home next week, it's okay. I do have Paquetá up against double defence next week, not necessarily ideal, but overall I think it's a pretty good pick. I could go for Reinders. That is on my mind, but I don't see that happening. I could go for Mitoma and Ruta and double up on Brighton attack, but I just don't think that's going to be good for my sanity. I think as soon as Ruta gets benched, I'm going to be tempted to want to sell him. So I don't think I can do that. Up front, Evan Nilsson, Mateta, Gyökeres. You might say to me, why are you going for Evan Nilsson instead of Semenyo? I do think Semenyo is the better pick, but it would be something like Evan Nilsson and Mitoma versus Semenyo and Thiago from Brentford. Now, Thiago's probably nailed for number 9 and probably going to be back on penalty, so he could be a really good option, but I don't think either of those things are a guarantee. And also, these two players probably get sold for Palmer if I want him back in 9, Mitoma and Evan Nilsson. And if you look at the fixtures in the game weeks before, so 4, 5, 7 and 8, because he gets sold in 9, free hit in 6. Mitoma's got Bournemouth away, Spurs at home, Wolves away, Newcastle at home. And if you look at someone like Thiago, I think it is, Chelsea at home, Fulham away, City at home, West Ham away. So I just think Mitoma's fixtures are slightly better. And obviously Evan Nielsen and Semenyo have got the same fixtures. Mateta stays, Sunderland at home, West Ham away, free hit him out, etc. I'm happy enough with him. He was in my current team already. In fact, Salah, Fernandes and Mateta were all in my original team. So was Dewsbury Hall on the bench. And then Gyökeres instead of Watkins. Now, I think I have to go for Gyökeres on Wildcard. Because if I go for Watkins, that's another booked-in transfer later on. And because my Wildcard's now done, I don't have the luxury of using this again until the second half of the season. So I've got to think about future weeks. I'm not sure I quite buy all the hype around Gyökeres necessarily, but I feel like I've got to go for him. I know Watkins could punish me. Obviously, he's got Sunderland in 5, Burnley in 7. But Gyökeres has got West Ham at home in 7. So he could also be a good option. He's definitely on penalties, unlike Watkins, who may not be. I don't know. I think I think Gyökeres versus Watkins and then Mitoma, Paquetá, I'm not 100% certain about. But I did talk about Paquetá long before I was thinking about wildcarding, like early in the international break. I think for less than 6 million, he is a good pick. So that's the team. Dubravka on the bench, Dewsbury Hall, Anderson, Joachim Anderson, of course, and then Senesi from Bournemouth. I have thought about going Munoz to Esteve and then just playing Anderson this week and doing Esteve for bench boost in game week 5. That would allow me to do Mitoma to Gakpo. Now, if I knew I was definitely going to sell Gakpo in game week 7, then I'd probably go for that. Burnley away, Everton at home, free hit, and sell him in 7. But if I get stuck with him and then his minutes go down, I'm not so sure about that. I keep thinking about it though. Ekitike and Isak, I think they're going to share minutes number 9. I don't see them both starting for a while. So Gakpo's going to have to keep starting left wing because there's not really anyone else to play that role. Unless Wirtz is going to go and play there. But it'd have to be a slightly different setup because he's not an out-and-out winger. So Gakpo is tempting with Burnley away straight in front of me. It feels wrong to only have 2 Liverpool players. But I think, again, for security of minutes, I've probably got to go the Mitoma route. Plus, to go Mitoma to Gakpo, I've got to downgrade someone like Munoz. And I kind of like just having him for Sunderland at home. I've thought about going for Konza instead of Senesi, then buying Senesi later. But he's been so good for defensive contributions. Like, he's the kind of player that's going to get you a few points every week or near enough every week. Brighton at home this week, Newcastle at home for the bench boost. Then it's Fulham at home in 7, Palace away, Forest at home in 9. And longer term, like West Ham at home in 12, Sunderland away in 13, Everton at home in 14. And I know that's a long way away, but 4.5 million defenders, I'm not going to, well, he's 4.6 now. I'm not going to mess around with that much. So as long as he stays fit, he will stay in the squad. So that's how it's set up. If you look at the team on the My Team tool on Hub, like game week 5, I think this bench boost looks better than what it would have been. So I'd probably play Raya over Dubravka. So Dubravka on the bench, Lacroix, Dewsbury Hall against Liverpool away, and then Senesi against Newcastle at home. My bench, if I'd gone the other route, would have been Sanchez against Man United away, still Dewsbury Hall, and then I think something like Esteve against Forest at home, and another Porro versus Brighton away. I still think Porro's fine, but he's not someone that I would look to include on Wildcard. Then game week 6, I would free hit. Game week 7 looks fine. Raya against West Ham at home. The front line is Gyökeres against West Ham at home, Mateta against Everton away, and Evan Nielsen against Fulham at home. Paquetá gets benched for Dewsbury Hall. I play Mitoma against Wolves, good fixture. Fernandes is fine. Salah would go nowhere. And then defensively, I mean, it's not amazing, but it's also not terrible. I could probably bench Van Dijk. Senesi versus Fulham at home, Munoz and Lacroix against Everton away. Game week 8, it continues, right? I can play Van Dijk against Man United at home. Munoz and Lacroix have got Bournemouth at home. Paquetá's got Brentford at home, so he comes in for Dewsbury Hall. And look, in theory, I just roll now, right? I roll for bench boost 5. I free hit in 6. I've got 2 chances in 7. I roll again. I got 3 chances in 8. Roll again. 4 chances in 9. That's how I get Palmer back. And the way I would do that, let's just talk about it right now. So I'd probably do Munoz down to like a Goodmanson from Leeds, and then do Mitoma to Palmer. And because my bench boost would be out of the way, I could do Evan Nielsen down to someone like Mark Guiu, who may even be getting minutes by then. If not, he just permanently goes on the bench. So I'd have one transfer spare, and that's how I get Palmer back in. Now I am back to playing Dewsbury Hall most weeks, but so be it, right? It means I can have Palmer, Salah, Fernandes, and Gyökeres all in the same team. By game week 9, something else will have happened, right? But I feel like this team is flexible enough to deal with different scenarios. In terms of the upgrades in attack, I actually don't think I've made that many for this week, but I think overall for the next few weeks it will work out better. Like Strand Larson, for example, I'm not convinced is going to be back for game week 5. So this week, it's Gyökeres versus Wirtz, Watkins versus Evan Nielsen, Paquetá versus Dewsbury Hall, and Matoma versus Semenyo. That's probably the differences in attack. But defensively, I think I've got 4 upgrades. Ray is better than Sanchez, Laquara and Munoz are better than Anderson and Porro, and Van Dijk's better than Agbadou. So I think my attack, look, there could be huge swings, right? The 4 players I would have had I not wildcarded could absolutely smash it. The 4 players I've got now might all blank. But I think on paper, before the game week starts, there's not a huge difference between the 4. And defensively, I've definitely got a better defense now. So I think my team is better for 4, it's better for 5, and it's probably going to work out okay 7 onwards. And if it doesn't, so be it. It'll be annoying, right? I want to do well in FPL, but I don't think it's going to be the end of the world. I think it's good to have an opinion in FPL. It's good to think about different strategies, different weeks you can wildcard. Like, is it better to do it in 4, in 6, in 7, in 8, in 13, etc.? But overall, it probably all works out fairly similar. There'll be one strategy that absolutely smashes it, of course, but is it worth me spending hours every single week trying to figure out? Obviously, I like to think about FPL and content, but is there like a need for me to spend another 4 or 5 hours another night thinking about Wildcard 6 or Wildcard 7? Probably not for my own team. I think doing it in 4 is absolutely fine. So I will continue to think about chip strategies for content reasons, but for my own team, I'm happy that I've kind of got it out of the way, to be honest with you. And I think the team looks good enough. Either way, people are going to hate the team, and if it doesn't do well, it's going to look stupid, but it's going to be the same any week. I can't worry about that. So yeah, how long have I rambled for there? 17 minutes. I'm going to leave it there because it's quite late and I want to get this up hopefully before midnight. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a like, hit that subscribe button. I'm not quite sure what I've just said for 17 minutes. I'm quite tired. That probably hasn't come out quite as coherent as I would have liked. We'll see what happens. Maybe I'll wake up with deep regret. I'll see you for the deadline stream, 9 AM Saturday morning, UK time.